This information covers the new features for the original Casambi app that will be released at the end of May 2026. The beta features are for iOS only at present. A summary is shown here. There's a reset presence option for resume automation function for sensors and switches. The All Luminaires icon in the Luminaires tab can now be hidden. Controller information for each virtual luminaire connected to a Salvador can now be seen. There's prevention of the site email address from being edited, and there's an option to enable network data logging for diagnostic purposes. Two beta features are a new connectivity test and DALI Gateway backup and restore feature. In addition, there's various small bug fixes. Each of the main features shown here will be described now separately. First of all, the reset presence option. This is intended for certain niche use cases, so normally should be left disabled. For example, such a case could be if there's a need for an immediate switch off of the lights from a last man out switch. But even with this sort of scenario, there's a risk that someone pushes the switch while people are still moving around in the premises but are not actually triggering the sensors. So very careful consideration of the real life use cases should be considered before using this option. What it actually does in practice is if the sensor is in its linger time, or if it's in presence absence mode and it's in its absence timeout state, so in other words isn't detecting any motion, the activation of the resume automation command with this reset presence feature activated as well will immediately cause the linger time or the absence timeout to time out immediately, regardless of how much time is remaining. So for example, if the sensor has only just entered a 15-minute linger time and you push the resume automation option, the lights will immediately fade off, so it'll totally count down to zero from the 15 minutes linger time immediately, rather than continuing its normal countdown. So it only works in presence or presence absence mode for the sensors, and it only works then if the sensor is in linger time state or in absence timeout state. So if a sensor is configured in presence mode and the linger time is active, so the presence sensor has stopped detecting motion and the linger time has started, resume automation with reset presence will then immediately switch the lights off, or if there's a lower hierarchical command such as a timer command that's active, that condition will be visible on the lighting. If the sensor is in presence absence mode and the linger time is active, so actually only presence has stopped being detected and the linger time has started to count down, the resume automation option will cause the sensor to immediately switch to the absence scene. If the sensor is in presence absence mode and has already been in the absence scene and the absence timeout is active, the resume automation will then cause the lights to fade off or to a lower active hierarchical level. And this feature doesn't work in sensor in absence mode because the absence mode for a sensor is basically resume automation for the sensor, so it's already the resume automation command. Other new features. First of all, you can now hide the All Luminaires icon in the Luminaires tab, so you've actually got the options in the network settings to be able to either show All Luminaires icon or the nearby Luminaires icon, or both, or none of them. It just depends what toggle switches you have enabled. The All Luminaires icon is active by default and the nearby Luminaires icon is inactive by default. The second feature shown here is in the properties of a virtual node that's connected to a Salvador. When you're looking in the Luminaires tab, double tap on the icon for the virtual node, look down on the properties and you'll see a controller option, and it will tell you which Salvador is controlling that virtual node. This is particularly useful if you've got more than one Salvador in your network controlling many different nodes. The third new option is that the site email address now cannot be edited to prevent unwanted changes and preventing you from getting incorrect access or access denied by inadvertently changing the email address to an invalid email address. Should you want to change your site account email address, you can either contact Casambi support or you have to create a completely new site account. And the last option there is the option for enabling diagnostics mode data logging. It's for support purposes only and should never be enabled unless you're requested by Casambi support to enable it, because it does use a lot more data from the network and may negatively affect network performance. A beta feature that is now released publicly but may still be changed and improved at a later date is the new connectivity test. It's only available on iOS to start with, but it's basically a simple test to indicate if all nodes in the network can communicate at least with one other node in the network or through the entire mesh. So it helps to indicate the possibility of island issues in your network, and it can only, of course, detect powered nodes because it needs to communicate. So if you've got a kinetic switch or a battery powered device that isn't active, it cannot connect to those because they've got no power. But it's in the performance and security settings. You can go to connectivity test, push the start button, and the app will interrogate the network to make sure that it can connect and communicate with all devices in the network. If all devices in the network respond, then you'll get the top right response there that no problems were found, and it'll verify how many devices were in the network. And if, for example, something doesn't respond, you've got 9 devices in your network and only 8 devices respond, it'll take a bit longer because it'll keep repeating to try and establish connection. But if it cannot establish connection with that device, you'll get the error message showing in the bottom right that the analysis has finished and it's found certain errors, and it'll show you what are errors. And this can either indicate there's a possible island between the rest of the network and these devices, or that the device is powered off. The final beta feature, also only on iOS to start with, is the possibility to create a backup of the DCS DALI gateway settings. DALI data for the DCS DALI gateway is only stored in the DCS DALI gateway device itself, so it's not a common part of all of the network configuration like the rest of Casambi programming is. So to be able to easily restore data should it have been accidentally changed at some stage, or if the DCS itself ever needs to be replaced for whatever reason, you can create a backup just by going to the device properties itself, long pushing on the model name to open the options shown on the left there, and then select DALI Gateway Backup. You'll then get the central option to create a new backup, and you can continue, and it'll tell you when a backup's been created. If you want to restore a backup, you can select the restore option. It will then take you to the network history view where the network backup is stored, and also the gateway backups are then stored, and you can select the backup and restore it from there. And that's the summary of all of the new features and functionality for the May 2026 app release of the original Casambi app.